So one of the accessories that I bought was the link attachment to go on the Spark 2-up. This is a Spark Trixx, and it basically comes with two of these brackets. They're not the same. One mounts at the upper part of the rear deck and one mounts at the lower part. It involves some drilling, but there are pretty good instructions on the website, because that's what Sea-Doo does, is they give you the same sort of piece of paper in every accessory that you buy, and you go online and you go to their website and you type in the 9-digit number, like most of them are 9 digits, and boom, up comes your little simple graphics, and it tells you how to do it. So for the Trixx, you need to at least loosen all of the bolts of the top structure. I think ideally you probably want to take it off if possible. I was able to get this rear piece off by myself. I probably wouldn't do it again. I took most of the bolts off on the side. It gave me enough give to get this piece out, but because of the rubber on the upper part here that I'm pointing to, I think it would probably be best to have two people on either side lift it up when you pull it out, because you don't want to tear the rubber seal that's on this rear end piece. And what that is here. So, but I think we could get it back on without taking the whole thing off. But you do need to loosen all the bolts and take them all off along the way. Here in front of me, I've laid them all out. Some people have said, put the same bolt back in the same spot. I'm a believer in that, but I'm no engineer. I don't know hex bolts and plastic. There's only so many number of times they can go back in correctly before the threading goes out. So I think the most difficult part is going to be getting this back on. The second most difficult part is going to be putting it on. Don't be scared of the drilling involved. You're going to have this cleat that has the LinQ wording off on the side. The other cleat has the LinQ on the middle part of the bracket. Okay, and it's quite simple. They give you this reinforcing plate, and you just put it up there, and you use a marking point, and you mark the two areas, and then you take your specified drill bit. I'll put that off to the side when I edit this. And you drill through. It goes through pretty quick because it's pretty thin. And then you have to make a decision about waterproofing. Now, they don't mention that in the directions. There's another gentleman who showed me how to do this with his video, and he used some type of sealant. What I like to do, and I've used it on other projects, like I have a Diamondback ATV cover on the rear of my truck, and when I put the bolts in, I wanted to have some more waterproofing when the bolts going through. So what I've used is, your kid has a flat tire and you end up replacing the inner tube. I mean, I've been using this for years for various things. You cut a little piece, you take a pin, you put it through the center like that, and that'll go right over your bolts. It'll go right over your bolts. And so on this one, I put a little disc on either side of the plastic, and it's secured in tightly. So that's a little tip that I have. I'm going to wait until I've got two people in here to lift the item up before I put it back on. I'll do another video and edit it, showing you putting the bottom plate on. But that just involves doing a little bit more drilling down here, because you're going to be putting it back in the same spot. It goes in where the bolts for this top cover go in. It just needs to be drilled down a little bit deeper than it otherwise was, because they give you longer bolts, because obviously it has to go through this extra distance. So anyway, but I think that would be great to have the ability to put other things on the back of this Sea-Doo. I bought a gas can, and with the gas can you can put another bracket on top of the gas can, and then you can put a bag or another device on top, so you can double things up. And I'll edit in some examples of what I did. So for the next part and the last sort of drilling part, we need to drill out the two bottom center holes to accept the larger screws that are going to go through the link attachment. The screws that we're holding the deck in are this big, and the ones that they give you with the kit are almost twice as long. So we have to drill down through there a little bit further. So you use a 3/16 drill bit. And that should be about good. Okay, so now I'm going to see about putting the back plate back on. As you can see, I have not taken the full deck off. What I have done is I've taken all the screws out and I've lifted each side, and on either end I've taken a piece of old packing foam, so it's not going to scrape or dig into anything. It'll have some give to it, and I've stuck it along either side, and I'll take a separate photo of that and insert it. So I think I have it high enough. The tricky part here is this V support, which I'll take a picture of that you can't see from there. It has an upright to it, and it has to fit into these two grooves, these circular discs on the back plate. So the back plate has to go in under the upper deck and rest on those so the bolts are lined up, because then the upper deck is going to go onto those. So when you're putting this back in, again, you want to have it either the top deck completely off, or you want to have it sufficiently high enough that you can get this back piece underneath it without ripping any of your rubber seal, because you certainly don't want that. The other thing is, if you're like me, because I just did, don't forget to put this back in. It's a buoyancy float, and it goes right in the back. And I had already put the deck on and was going to come in to film it and started putting screws on, and I realized that it was sitting over behind the camera. So don't forget to do that. Okay, so let's see if we can get this thing lined up. So I've done some fiddling, and I managed to get it lined up, I believe. I took a flashlight just to see if I can make sure that the holes are lined up, and they are lined up. Another way you could do it is you can take off the dipstick oil maintenance hole on the starboard side of the craft, and you can put your light through there, and you can see that the uprights are aligned. So I think now I'm going to tighten the back screws and washers back on, make sure I have a good seal, and then I will take out the wedges, foam wedges that I have, and drop this back down, and then we'll film that. So when I'm putting the washers and the screws in the back deck, I'm finding that it's probably best to take a middle bolt, put the washer into the oval where you'll see in the hole, and then screw that one down partially and work out in either direction from there. So we're slowly compressing the seal. And do the same thing on the other side. Start at a corner and move back, and don't tighten them all down at once, because you want to make sure that you're getting it cinched correctly. Another thing that I bought in the CD catalog, they had stainless steel washers. The washers that are stock are plastic, and you'll see as soon as you take them off for the first time that they're going to have a shelf life. They're compacted, and you'll see that pieces of the plastic are starting to come off of the screws. So I bought a package of these. These aren't cheap. I think for 26 rings for the upper deck, good grief, I think it was about $60 or $70. I think it was pretty crazy. And they're not Sea-Doo, they're Riva Racing, but Sea-Doo has them in their catalog. I didn't know that they were Riva Racing, but BRP has bought them from them. They've put their instruction manuals, BRP instructions directing them to the website for these, but I was surprised when it had Riva Racing. I don't know, maybe Riva Racing is owned by Sea-Doo, I have no idea. So anyway, so I'm going to finish putting these screws back in. I'm going to tighten them down, and then I'm going to drop the deck. So I'm going to put the oval washer into the oval depression in the plastic, and then I'm going to line up the screw and give it a couple of hand turns so that it's seated, and then I will give it a few turns with the T30 Trixx to get it down. And now I'm going to move all the way around and gradually tighten it so that it's secure down there. Okay, I've put all of the T30 Trixx screws and the washers all the way around the perimeter, except for the middle two, which will go into the final lower bracket for the LinQ system. It doesn't say in the instructions to use the washers, but I am putting them in because when I did not put them in, it just didn't seem to seat correctly. So I'm assuming that's correct. It's something that I could fix easily after the fact. So now I'm just going to put these bolts back in and torque it up, and then I'm going to see about getting it all nice and tight, and then I'll drop the upper deck and put those bolts back on. So I've tightened all of the T30 Trixx screws and bolts. It screws on the back and the front, and then there's 5 T30 bolts with washers on the bottom and 10mm Teflon threaded nuts on the bottom. So, and they're brass. Those are on the side. And so I went around slowly and tightened them all gradually. I don't have a small enough torque wrench because these are within 9 to 15 pounds, depending, or 12 pounds, depending. So I just went easy. Be cautious of 2 things. One, make sure your washer is seated, the oval washer is seated. And also, if you're starting to deform your washer, you are obviously doing something wrong, so don't deform them. The next time I take this off, maybe in the fall, to winterize it, I will replace the upper deck washers with those stainless steel ones that I talked about. So now that they're all torqued on and everything seems to be aligned, now I have to put on these rear bumpers and put there's 4 T30 hex screws that'll go in on the bottom side, and then I'll have to put the foot plates back on here. Okay, I got all of the upper deck and the rear deck all bolted back down. That took a long time. I think there was 20 some hex bolts and nuts and screws. But the trickiest part, believe it or not, was getting these corner pieces back on. There's just 4 hex bolts that go straight up through the corner pieces and into the side of the hull. But what a pain in the butt. There's only 4 of them and there's no washers, but just trying to get them to line up it took me 15 minutes to put those 4 bolts in. Crazy. So the last step is to put, if you have the Trixx model, you're going to be putting the footsteps on. First you have to put this little plate, slide it in. If I get it to do that. Okay, I've already put one side on, and I couldn't figure figure out why it wasn't fitting properly. I thought I had put all of the bolts on correctly and left them in the holes and set them aside. There's one that's longer than the other three, and it goes on the outside, the front outside, and the rest of them are the same length and they go in the other spots. So it's a little tricky, you gotta line them up, but I'll go and do that, and then we'll see if the accessories fit. The last piece of the install is to put this small little foam pad in between the two links brackets, right around the BRP. So you take off the little 3M peel back, and you just center it underneath the BRP disc and push it on there. And that'll just give it a little bit of support in the center, decrease the scraping on the plastic, I'm assuming. So everything's now on. Just try some accessories. I think I got it all together. I think it's on correctly, but now we'll see. So I've got the LinQ cooler. Let's see if I can get that lined up. Appears to be good to go. Yep. So that's the cooler on the 2-up. We'll try a few of the others. Okay, so this is the gas can that I bought. I had intended to get the gas can and the dry bag, and I did. When you buy the gas can, it does not come with these extra brackets. You'll see from Sea-Doo's brochures and videos online that you can stack another bag on top of the gas can. They have a few bags. I bought the new waterproof bag. I think it's new this year. This is it. Links bag. It has a base that's very similar to snowmobiling bags, saddle bags that I'm familiar with my neighbor who has one. That's what it reminds me of. But you'll see the shape here. It's narrower on one side and it's fatter on the other. And when you go to stack it, it has implications. In other words, you're going to have to put the strap at the back side. It won't go the other way because this wide part interferes with the gas cap. So I tried putting it on this way and it won't go. You have to have it this way for it to fit. So the bag looks pretty good. I'm not crazy about the straps. They're kind of like a rubberized material. I'm just wondering how they'll hold up. The other thing that I found is weird is that normally on a backpack, I'll call it the male part, that's what goes into the other female clip. And when you want to open it, you squeeze the male part. But on this particular design, this inserts into the female part, but it's the female part that you actually squeeze that ends up squeezing in turn the upper part. So this just fits in like this, clips in. I didn't strap it in, but you get the idea. So I think you should be able to carry a fair bit with this. I obviously need this for the Trixx because there's no storage. There's a small bin to put your keys or maybe a small iPhone in it, but it's not waterproof. And I don't like the front bin. You can buy them, they're not that expensive, $150 or something like that. But I don't like the look of them. I really like the look of the front open of the Spark. So I'll take a picture of that. So I wanted to have some storage, and this will do the trick. One other thing, so you know, when I went to buy this, I knew that the gas can did not come with these attachments on top. So I bought an extra set. I think it was like $20 or something like that. Intending to put them on here so I could attach the other parts, this bag. But when I opened this bag, it gave you a set. So you don't have to buy an extra set. I don't know, I may end up, see if I can, I'm not shy about drilling into my cooler, maybe the 16-liter cooler. I don't know if it'll interfere with the strap or not on the handle on top, but I might put these on top of the cooler so that I can put the dry bag on top of it, because it'll be a rare occasion where I'll be using the gas can, because our lake isn't that big, to be quite honest. So yeah, it was a lot of work putting this on. There's a ton of bolts. I obviously did not take the top completely off. I probably should have done that. The next time I take them off, I'll be replacing the plastic rings with the stainless steel ones. I don't know if I'm going to paint them or not, because this model is all black, and I think the stainless steel might show up. I don't know, not a big deal. A first world problem for sure. But I'm not planning, I didn't enjoy taking all of those bolts off. That was a lot of work. The other thing is I'm not all that comfortable using the power driver and putting torque bits into plastic polymer, because there has a shelf life. You can only do that for so long in and out before you're going to have bad wear. So I primarily used a ratchet with a T30 torque bits. And I might also suggest, there's a tool I got at Princess Auto here in Canada. I don't know, Harbor Freight would probably be similar in the United States, I don't know. But anyway, it's just like a normal ratchet. They come in a set of 3, so the small ones, medium ones, and larger ones. And it worked well in certain tight spaces where the weight of the handle made things a little bit more difficult. So I kept that in my pocket, and I primarily used a hand tightening all the way around. I don't have a torque wrench that goes down this low, but I'll probably get one and just check all the nuts over the next 6 weeks before this thing goes into the water. So you can do it without taking the deck off. It isn't easy. The foam seemed to work okay, but this was a long project. So if you're not up for that, it's probably worth the money to have the dealer install it for you. It would be really nice if they just installed it at the factory. It'd make it much more easy, but and maybe then they'd sell more of these products. I don't know, but I hope that was helpful, and have a good day.